Before having that third surgery. Daddy! The coaches and all the guys already knew today was the day. Here's head coach.
And that is really all you need to hear and know to really appreciate what went down over the weekend for the St. Louis Blues. Congratulations, Vladimir. And guys, welcome into Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. I am Michael Wags, Wagon Connect, joined alongside by my co-host, Joe Hamilton. We're going to be joined by Scott Tobin here in just a little bit. He's on his way back from work, and he'll hopefully be here in time for our big interview with Mike Claiborne. He's joining us for the second time a little bit later today from Jupiter, Florida. It kind of feels like spring training here in St. Louis right now. It is a beautiful day outside. I'm in shorts. I cannot believe that I'm in shorts finally, and it's March. But, man, how are you enjoying the weather so far?
I'm enjoying it, man. I think after this show and after the interview, I'm going to go for a walk. I mean, it's that nice out. It's something that I was hoping we were going to get to, but I know March is sometimes a cold month, depending on the year. So I'm kind of glad we're on the opposite side of that spectrum.
Well, it's Missouri, so you never know. It could change by next week, but hopefully we'll have nice weather for the foreseeable future, and we're past this whole winter crap. But when you get out of winter, it feels like hockey tends to get a little bit on the back burner, obviously with St. Louis Cardinals baseball on the way, spring training underway as well. But the Blues did enough in my mind this weekend to get people to get back onto the radar. Vladimir Tarasenko is back after his third shoulder surgery. Hopefully this is the one that cleaned it up. And I'll tell you what, man, watching him on Saturday night, he looked like he was back. He's not fully in game shape yet, obviously. There are some things that he's still going to have to get himself worked up into. But once overtime rolled around, that move he pulled to try and get the game-winning goal, I was just floored by how prepared he looked and how he was ready to go about his business. And he looked great. I was very, very skeptical about him coming back and playing against the Kings, but he looked pretty damn good in his return. And I'm looking forward to seeing more Vladimir Tarasenko from here on out, especially tonight against San Jose.
Yeah, and I was a little worried about his first wrist shot because I didn't know what kind of power he'd have behind it. It was saved, of course. I mean, not every wrist shot's going to go in, but Vladi's wrist shot has that certain feel to it, man. It has that certain ambiance that it's going to sting somebody if it hits somebody. That's how good his wrist shot is. We talk about that with a lot of slap shots, but when you have a wrist shot like that, it's like, wow, just wow. That's all I can say about it. Wags, just speaking on the game, if I can do that from Saturday night, you're up 3-0 in that game, and you lose it. That's not a good look. Okay, I mean, you look so good in that first period. You look good even in the second period. Didn't score in the second period, but you were up 3-0 at that point, and then it was 3-1. Then it was 3-2. I'm like, oh no, here we go. you need to protect those 3 goal leads. What did you take from that game? Yes, we got a point, but I still don't like it. I still don't.
Well, you say it's a bad look. This is something that the Blues have a penchant for doing. Okay, they blow 2 and 3 goal leads. It's not anything new. It's not like this team has looked so good, and then all of a sudden, what? They blew a 3. No, this is something that has gone on for the last few years with this team. It's something that they haven't been able to really get under control. And I still go back to the fact that they're still playing with a lot of injuries, a lot of new guys in the lineup. There's a lot of turnover. It's going to happen. Yes, you have guys like Justin Falk that are playing better. You've got guys like Braden Shen and Ryan O'Reilly that really should be able to lock things down. But it's still something that you're having to integrate new guys into this lineup, and it's going to happen. And people are going to look at it and say, oh, well, Jordan Binnington hasn't been all that great. He doesn't look like a world saver or anything like that. But you have to sit back and remember, yes, the run he went on in 2019 was unprecedented. But you also have to remember that at that point in time, every game was a must-win game. This team was in last place. They had to fight and claw to get their way back into the playoff hunt, and then they had to be the team that was an underdog in every single series they played in. So every single game felt like and should have been a must-win game. So he was going to give his all in every one of those games. Right now, these aren't must-win games in a sense. They're in a playoff position right now. Yes, there are teams with games in hand that will eventually pass them in points and maybe drop them into that third place spot, but they're still in position to make the playoffs. So the mindset, the intensity is probably just not there full time for these guys. And I'm not going to sit there and say that Binnington is letting in weak goals, because he's not. These goals are more the product of a defensive lack for the Blues, and forwards maybe not back checking as hard. It's small tweaks that, once again, this team seems to fall back to when the pressure is not on them. But put pressure on them, and this team seems to react and respond pretty well. They did it in the first game against LA. They were down a goal late in the third period, and they pushed and pushed and pushed, and you saw guys like Mike Hoffman back checking to prevent that empty net goal. When the pressure is on, this team can produce and compete. It's really Berube's job and the coaching staff's job to find ways to get this team to be and stay motivated when that pressure just necessarily isn't there. That's the way I look at it.
Well, and it's kind of hard to stay motivated when you have limited fans in the stands. We've talked about this many times, and you say the fans don't matter. Like, when you watch a game, the fans don't matter. But when it comes to this time of year, when these are starting to be must-win games, to stay in, because you have two good teams you need to stay up with in Vegas and Colorado. And Colorado is having a goaltending issue. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I still think there are things with this team that need to be cleaned up. Now, you say he's not letting in cheap goals. There were 2 goals in Saturday's game that I think he should have had, especially the first one on the short side. I thought he should have been hugging the post a little bit better. I don't know if you saw the game, Wags, but do you know what goal I'm talking about? I think it was the first goal.
Have you ever played goal?
No. Okay. No.
Okay. That's the biggest thing, until you can get into the net. And I was fortunate enough last week to actually play goal in one of our exhibitions that we were having last Tuesday night. And that was the first time I've actually gotten to put the pads on and get between the pipes and actually experience what a goaltender has to go through. And we could sit here and say, oh, he should have stopped this, he should have stopped that. But until you're in that position and actually know what a goaltender sees and has to deal with, I can't lay blame on him. Yes, we would have liked to have seen him make some of these saves. I totally get that. But come on. This is a difficult position. And when your teammates aren't, providing the defensive coverage that you need in certain situations, you're gonna let in goals that maybe look like they're cheap goals or easy goals that could be stopped. But without being in that same spot, you can't really cannot make a complaint on that. I mean, you ask a goaltender, if a goaltender sits there and says, oh yeah, definitely, he should have stopped that shot, he should have been hugging the post more. But if you're in Binnington's mind, and let's say 3 games ago, he's hugging that post every single time. And one of the goals is a pass cross ice, and he can't come off the post quick enough, and the goal gets scored. Well, what if that's in his mind? Then he's like, okay, well, the last time this kind of play happened, I was hugging the post tight. They saw that, passed the puck over, got an easy empty net sort of goal. Well, now he starts to cheat a little bit because he's thinking, okay, the last time I saw this, they passed it cross ice for a goal. Now I'm going to start cheating a little bit to get myself in a position to be able to maybe get across and make the save. Well, the Kings player can see that and goes, okay, well, this is where he's thinking. He's starting to cheat a little bit. Oh, now I'm going to whip it to the net, and it goes in. There's a lot of intricacies that go into that, and guys are going to cheat, whether it's offensively, defensively, goaltending-wise. In certain instances, you're going to recognize what somebody's done in the past, and it may not be what they're going to do, but you start to get in your mind, okay, 9 times out of 10, this guy's going to pass the puck cross ice. Well, in that instance, that 1 out of 10 chance was what just happened. Instead of passing it across the ice like he normally does, puts a shot on net, and it goes in, and what we think should have been an easy save.
Yeah. What are you looking forward? You say you're looking forward to seeing more of Tarasenko. What are you looking forward to tonight in terms of his progression on the ice? How many games do you think it'll take for him to get into game shape? 5? Would you say 5, 6? What is it?
mean, yeah, 5-6 games is definitely a good measuring stick to make sure that he is, up to game speed. It's going to take a couple games for that. The thing I was looking for in the first game was to see how he absorbed a hit. And he did that and more. He actually went out there and started laying some hits as well. And that was something that I was a little worried about was, is he going to be able to take a hit, lay a hit, and be able to react from that? He not only did that, he made the move in overtime to potentially set up the game-winning goal. And the big thing for me was the fact that he had that huge, huge smile on his face the entire game. And that's something we haven't seen from Tarasenko in the last couple of years because he's been dealing with injury, because he's been trying to shoulder that weight of being the guy with an injury. And I think now that he comes back, he's clear when it comes to injury. He knows that he doesn't have to be the guy. It's Ryan O'Reilly's team now, and yes, there was some contention in the offseason about Vlad not being the captain. I don't think that really had much of anything actually to do with his mindset, but all of that's off his shoulder now, and I talked about this on Blue Notes Pod earlier today. I think we're going to see the best Tarasenko we've seen here in St. Louis, barring shoulder health, because he's happy to be playing, he's healthy, and he does not have to be the man. And that's going to free him up to be creative and really just be the best Tarasenko he could possibly be.
Who is the guy?
Well, I mean, it's Ryan O'Reilly's team.
It's Ryan O'Reilly's team, but can you really say I can name a couple more guys. David Perron, Braden Shen, those guys. I
mean, I don't know if they're necessarily the guy. I mean, everybody looks to Ryan O'Reilly for the leadership because he's the captain, and he also produces offensively. I mean, when Alex Pietrangelo was the captain, it's different. When a defenseman is captain, you're looked at for leadership, but you're not necessarily looked at for offensive capabilities. When you're a forward that's a captain, I think you have a lot more responsibility because you have to show leadership, you have to produce offensively, and you have to make sure that you're getting back to produce defensively as well. Whereas defenders, they have to lead and they have to defend. Anything offensive is a bonus, really. So the pressure for a defender to be captain, I mean, I'm not saying there's like a gulf of difference between those two, but there is a little bit less, I think, for a defender than it is for a forward, because there seems to be more responsibility for a forward for winning and losing games. And you could say that's about the goaltending too. Yeah, the goaltender is the last person to essentially stop the puck and prevent a team from scoring. But it really starts from the top, from the forwards. If you're preventing teams from getting into the zone as a forward, you're doing your job. Then it falls to the defender, and then it falls to the goaltender. Forwards have to prevent teams from getting into the offensive zone. They have to be outlets for the breakouts. They have to get into the zone for the opponent. They have to help set up in the zone, and then they're the ones that normally have to finish the play as well. So putting all of that on there, plus that leadership, it makes being a captain as a forward, I think in my mind, a lot tougher than if you're a defenseman. So I think Ryan O'Reilly is a guy that can handle it. I'm not saying that Vlad couldn't handle it, but I think O'Reilly just has that kind of personality. And I'm not trying to say this in any negative way, shape, or form, but the language barrier is something that I also think has something to do with it as well. O'Reilly is a guy that can articulate things a lot better to a locker room that is predominantly English speaking. Yes, you've got guys that can and will speak Russian and other languages, but when you have the ability to speak to the team as a whole and be heard, it's different, and there's a different feel to it than somebody that where English is a second language. And Vladimir has done an amazing job with his leadership, his language skills, and just being a beacon in the community. But once again, Ryan O'Reilly just has something above that allows him to command more leadership in that locker room. But Vlad is going to get a lot of credit for what he's been able to do coming back from 3 shoulder surgeries for sure.
You know, a lot of people say Vladdy wasn't the captain because of not just language barrier, if he really is a leader. Because I don't know why people question his leadership, because I think he'd be a hell of a leader. And that's why I said Vladdy for captain before we even got Ryan O'Reilly. But is he that good of a leader to you, Wags? I mean, is he the guy that can, you know, talk up when he needs to? I mean, even though he does have that language barrier?
See, I think I don't know. That's the thing. I don't think he's a guy that would command that, hey, look at me, I'm talking kind of presence. Yeah. I almost think he's a little soft-spoken. I don't know if he's embarrassed or shy in a sense to where he doesn't want to talk, but even just watching the interview yesterday with him and Ashley Weiss about him coming back, he was happy. He was excited to be back, but his answers were pretty short and pretty much, I wouldn't say scripted, but you could feel like, you know, they were thought through and that he knew how he wanted to answer those questions. He doesn't go on these tirades or these epically long speeches like some captains do. Now, sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you can make a point by just saying a couple of words. And I think that's where Tarasenko can be a big part of the leadership group, is he could just walk into a room and say, guys, get me the puck. And his teammates will know, okay, the fire in his eyes is all I need to know. Get him the puck and he's going to score. Ryan O'Reilly's a guy that you can see that in his eyes too. He gets that fiery stare, but he might be able to talk a little bit more, and maybe he might be able to calm down while also, you know, inciting a riot by just how he talks. Vladimir would walk in and, as typical as you would expect from a Russian player, he may just walk into the room, stare at you with those steely eyes and go, puck to me. And that's all you need to know. So it just depends on what kind of leadership style this team wants. And I think for the longest time with Alex Pietrangelo, with David Backes, and a couple of guys before that, the captains were these stoic orators that could talk and get your team built up. I don't know if they're ready for a guy that would just walk in and say 3 words and that's all you need.
I just don't think so either. I think you need more than just 3 words to correctly lead a team. I mean, it's more than that.
In what sense?
Well, as a captain, I mean, you have relationships with all your players. If you see that one of your players is screwing up, if you see they're having a bad day, you go over there and talk them up. That's all there is to it. And I don't know if Vladi can do that. Not saying he can't, but we just haven't heard stories of him being this leader in the clubhouse. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you this, because you were not a fan of Alex Pietrangelo as the captain of this team.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Alex Pietrangelo did. You wanted a guy like David Backes. You wanted a guy that was fiery, that led by example, that hit people all over the ice. Yeah. So was Alex Pietrangelo not a good captain in your mind then?
He wasn't the captain that I think this team needed. But Vladimir
is a guy that would lead by example and hits people on the ice and has that David Backes mentality, right?
Yeah. I mean, he fought. Yeah, I mean, he's fought before. And I thought maybe, Wags, that if it didn't go to O'Reilly, I thought a guy like Braden Shen would have been that guy, because how many times have you seen Braden Shen go into the dirty areas when a star player gets hit? How many times have we seen that?
Well, and Vladimir hasn't?
I'm not saying he hasn't. But
I'm just trying to figure this out, because you say that Vladimir can't be the captain, but he does all the things that David Backes does the things that Braden Shen does. But you want a guy that can go talk a guy up in the corner when he isn't doing well, and that's exactly what Alex Pietrangelo did, but you didn't think Alex Pietrangelo was a good captain.
I just didn't think Pietrangelo fought for his teammates enough. I just didn't see it enough on the ice. Maybe he was that way in the locker room. He was not like that on the ice as much. And a lot of people, including me, were bashing him when Jamie Benn sat on him, and he let that happen. I didn't see Pietrangelo fighting him to get up. Did you? Because I didn't. That's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that
you're taking one
picture. No, yeah, but that's the kind of thing, though, Wags, that needs to happen with a captain. You need your captain to stand up for himself, and there he didn't.
How many times does Nick Lidstrom get into a fight?
A lot.
Really?
No, actually, wait. No. How many fighting minutes, actually? I'd like to know that.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but he never struck me as a guy that fought a whole lot. He's a guy that averaged about, 25 to 30 penalty minutes a season. So are you going to sit there and say that a multiple Norris champion wasn't a good captain for a Detroit Red Wings team?
I'm not saying he wasn't. We weren't talking about that. What we were talking about.
Everybody compares. I'm especially compared Alex Pietrangelo to a guy like Nick Lidstrom, a guy that was stoic on the ice, did everything the right way, was probably a great guy, a great leader in the locker room, and yet he wasn't a physical knockdown, drag out guy like you're basically saying a captain needs to be. You're saying a captain needs to be a guy that runs around the ice, hits people, and beats people up when they attack his players.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying a captain needs to go to the front of the net, take his bruises when he.
So defensemen can't be captains?
Look at the type of captain that David Backes was.
Okay, how many Stanley Cups did David Backes win?
Dude, that is warranted, but I will say, what kind of player was he? He was a grinder. He was a guy who would get in front of the net. He would be a guy who would push people around when he had to. I didn't see Pietrangelo doing that a lot. Okay? Look, I'm not looking for a guy to be a goon as a captain. I'm not saying that at all. No, I'm just saying pick your battles. When someone's hit on the ice or when something happens that you don't like or you shouldn't like, you damn well better go and fix the situation. That's my whole point. And it didn't seem like Petro did that much. And on top of that, yes, he won us the Stanley Cup. That's the good part of him as a captain. He was the first captain to bring the Blues the Stanley Cup. But other than that, you need a little more grit from your captains.
So if you are the captain of a team that wins a Stanley Cup, doesn't that say that your teammates respect you and will do anything for you when you ask them to?
Yeah.
So why does he have to be the one that goes? I mean, you already talked about it. Braden Shen is a guy that goes into the dirty spaces. Vladimir Tarasenko went into the dirty spaces. You've got guys on that line. Alex Steen dropped down to the fourth line and was a grinder for the last couple of years of his career. So who's to say that people are looking at it and going, hey, you know what? Alex Pietrangelo is my captain. I respect him. I know he's not a physical player. He's a smart player. I'm going to be the one that goes and does the dirty work because I'm protecting my captain and my teammate because I don't want my captain getting hurt by having to stick up and fight somebody. That's the whole thing. And Weezer jumps in. Yeah, by all logic, all enforcers in the 90s would be captains. Captains lead behind the scene, okay? Yes, it's all well and good when the captain leads from the front, he leads the charge. But how many times is that captain killed in battle?
I just my whole thing is there was a big discrepancy from David Backes as a player. Yes, he was a forward to Pietrangelo as a player, and he was a defenseman. Backes was tough. Backes, while he had skill and he was tough, I thought the Blues were going to go with not the same type of player, but the guy with a similar skill set and would do not the same things, but pretty close to it.
Well, let me ask you this then. How much progress and how much success did we see during the David Backes era in St. Louis?
The big run of 2016 was probably the best I've seen of this team under David Backes.
Big run of 2016. Ooh, when they went, 2 rounds? Woo! And then look at the run of success that they had with Alex Pietrangelo as captain. Maybe they needed a change in leadership structure and leadership style. That's the thing. And here's a great question. Is Wayne Gretzky a bad captain then? Is Sidney Crosby a bad captain?
Is Connor, and by that logic, is Connor McDavid a bad captain?
Yeah, I kind of think he is, but for other reasons.
But if we're strictly talking about skill set, that fits there.
So answer the question: is Wayne Gretzky a bad captain?
No.
So why is he not a bad captain?
But every team's different, though. Every team's different. How many times?
Hallelujah! I think I finally got through to you.
Here's the thing,
every team is different.
Wags, what does a hockey team? Have you ever heard this? The hockey team basically builds upon the spirit of where it's located. What is St. Louis?
You don't think Alex Pietrangelo was hardworking? You don't think he was blue collar?
I think he was hardworking. I just didn't think he.
So there you go. Yeah. That embodies the spirit of the city and town that he lives in. Do you not consider Alex Pietrangelo a St. Louisan?
Well, not anymore, but yeah, there. You got a point there, but I still wish he would have been a little bit tougher and stood up a little bit more. That's all, Wags. I'm not calling him a goon. I don't want a goon to be captain. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking have a little bit more toughness because I didn't see it. I didn't, and I'm gonna stand by that.
Okay, look at the NHL now, and I really just want you to think about this long and hard. Look at the NHL now. How much of it is about hitting and being tough?
Yeah, the hitting and toughness has surely not gone away, but almost gone by the wayside.
So you're basically saying you wanted your captain to be a relic in a sense. You wanted him to be a guy that went around and hit people and be tough and when really the game is transitioning to a speed skill game.
Wags, couldn't there be guys that could do both? To have the speed skill game, but yet be tough? That can actually.
Yes, and Alex Pietrangelo was tough.
He didn't show it a lot on the ice, Wags.
Because he's a smart hockey player.
I'm not. Wags, you're acting like I'm asking players to, go out and be goons and not care about anything else. I'm talking about, like I said before, picking your battles, doing different things. If you can score goals, you can score goals. But you know what? If a teammate gets knocked down, you should be the first one there to help him up and or get in the face of the guy who did it. That's the thing. There's still roughness in hockey.
I dare you to pull any tape where somebody gets roughed up in front of the Blues net or something like that, and Alex is on the ice and he doesn't come over to at least the group. I mean, he's not going to drop a guy with a punch, but he's going to get over there and get in. Seriously, I want you to, if you find tape of where you see something that went on in the front of the net or something like that, and Alex Pietrangelo is on the ice, and he's not in the general vicinity trying to talk to a player or talk to a ref or something like that, I'd like to see it because once again, it's not all about just going over and just running a guy over because he did something you didn't like. It's about other things, and it's about how the guy leads. And Weezer, once again, is kind of right. O'Reilly leading the team in fights. O'Reilly leads by being the first one on and the last one off the ice. You don't see O'Reilly leading in fights. It's by example. And Joe, you want Ryan Reeves back as captain. That's what we know. But you're kind of proving the point yourself by saying that. Like, O'Reilly doesn't lead the team in fights. O'Reilly is a guy that is before practice, he's practicing. After practice, he's practicing. He's doing what he preaches. And that's the exact same thing that Alex Pietrangelo did as well when he was here in St. Louis. He led by example, okay? He did everything that a proper player should do. And that's why guys looked up to him and respected him as the captain. And yes, that means maybe he doesn't go out there and fight, but he's got guys that are willing to fight for the team. That's the whole thing. It's about the team. It's not about one guy. It's about the team. And when your captain is able to bring everybody together to fill their roles, that is what makes a great captain. And that's what Ryan O'Reilly's doing right now. And that's why I don't know if Vladimir Tarasenko would have been right as the captain. A, because obviously he didn't start the season off by playing. And B, I just don't know if that's his mindset or his ability to bring the entire team together. Once again, he's a great player, but I don't know if he would have been a great captain. And Ryan O'Reilly has shown that he can do it.
Agreed. Downright agree. That's the first time I agreed in this whole conversation with you. But hey, agree to disagree, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and build up your NHL 2014 or your NHL 21 team with all the enforcer captains you want.
Yeah, see if that wins. You're right.
Exactly. I mean, it's video games, so you probably could find a way to actually get them to win a Stanley Cup, but that's not true simulation in my eyes. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what the Blues have got going on right now. They've taken 9 of 10 points on this road trip, and I think people are upset that they didn't take all 10 with that loss to the Kings on Saturday night. But you have to be happy with the fact that they have gone through and gotten the points. Where Joe sucks at NHL 21, though.
He should know. I mean, I do play on a club that he's on, or at least I play on the other one, and then he comes and plays once in a while when they're not on. So it's interesting. It's fun. I'm still learning the game. It's tougher, but I got it.
Like I said, the Blues have taken 9 of 10 points. They could have taken 10 against LA. And yes, you look at it and you go, oh, they blew the 3-0 lead. They had to come back on Friday night. A couple of games previous against San Jose, they've had to come back as well. But the thing about this team is they're resilient and they've got that next man up mentality. I mean, obviously Dakota Joshua comes in and scores a goal in his first game as well. And he's looked halfway decent and NHL ready, I think, in the games that he's been in. So yes, they drop a point in LA. They wrap up the road trip tonight in San Jose. And if they can get 2 points tonight in San Jose, I think 11 of 12 points on a road trip sounds pretty damn good to me.
Yeah, it does. And the way this team's played on this road trip, it is basically what they have been the last little while here. They've been road warriors. For whatever reason, they are really good outside of Enterprise Center. I guess it's because the lack of pressure from the home crowd to do something. Now, granted, this year it's different. But having that lack of a full building at home, or the lack of having that full building of your supporters, I think helps things for the Blues. I don't understand why, but do you kind of sense that too, man?
No, not at all. Once again, just like momentum, I don't think fan attendance necessarily dictates a team being good. Yeah, I mean, it helps, especially when it comes to the playoffs. I think you have the ability to influence an opponent. I don't think necessarily, though, that fans being in attendance really make a team a winner or a loser. I just don't think that. And yes, it's great to have fans in the stands, and it's going to be great to have a packed house when we finally have all this stuff lifted. But the Blues aren't going to magically play 1,000 times better because they've got full stands and support behind them.
Wags, here's what I was saying, though. I was basically making the point of they, for some reason, thrive off the pressure of playing on the road with a bunch of people that essentially don't like them in the stands.
You can't say that because the places they've been playing in right now have had zero fans in the stands.
Wags, I'm talking historically over the last 3, 4, 5 years. They've been a really good road team, man. It's hard to explain.
But they still are, and there are no fans in the stands. So I don't think you can make that comparison.
Yeah, I get okay.
I don't know, Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to say how much fans being in a stadium or whether a stadium is empty or not really impacts how the players play, or if that makes a difference at home or on the road. Although, I mean, we heard the Blues all come out and say that it did make a difference during the bubble, that they couldn't get up for it without fans. So it's interesting. I think it's just everybody's perspective individually.
And I think with the bubble, it was like that for a lot of teams. I mean, Tuukka Rask was the same way. He wanted to get back to his family. Had a new child at home and all that. So there's a lot of things. And I think the bubble, it was just a weird situation in general because we were still at the beginnings of the pandemic. We were going through a lot of changes. We weren't sure what things were going to look like. You had the daily testing. So I think a lot of that was amplified a little bit more than it probably would have been normally. But I do think, I mean, there is some point to what you're saying, though, Joe, is, yeah, sometimes some players do get up a little bit more when they're in a hostile environment. And when you're at home, it could actually be the reverse effect. You could be feeling like you're letting an entire city down if you don't play well. So I get there is a nugget of truth to your point. But once again, the Blues have kind of proven that otherwise by playing well on the road this year with nobody in the stands.
Yeah, I think there's a thing of, the Blues feed off that positive and or negative energy. And I was kind of skeptical to see how the Blues were going to play this year, just because I saw what they were in the bubble. And yes, while there were a few fans in the stands to start the season, there were no fans in the stands, and they just looked flat. Now, maybe a full off season of them working out, them getting back into game shape will help them. But I was thinking it may not have started out well. I was actually shocked by the start of how good it was.
So the fact that Vladimir Tarasenko was dealing with surgery, coming off of that, not really having proper rehab, the team having a bunch of guys contracting COVID and dealing with the aftermath of that, getting into a new routine of being tested every day, living on their own in one building for an extended period of time. None of that had any effect on going, hey, wait, now they're back home and back to somewhat normalcy. Maybe we'll actually see something different.
I just think that there's going to be some differences with lack of, a full crowd, like I said, but man, they just seem like they play well with, they play well no matter what. I mean, the thing is, Wags, I was shocked because, hold on, I'm sorry. I was answering something else but no, thing is, Wags, they do what they do. They're doing what they need to do right now. Again, I was kind of worried about them playing without any fans, without any energy in the building. And that's what I was wondering what they were going to do in terms of energy in the building. I know they're piping in crowd noise, but the Blues feed off that energy, don't you think?
But as an opponent, though, aren't you taught that you want to suck the life and energy out of an opponent's building anyway?
Yeah, but I'm
right.
I totally get that, but in that case, you don't really have to do much work because there is no energy in the building. Like tonight in San Jose, are they having fans? No. So it's almost like playing rec hockey when there's no fans in the stands, except you're at a higher level. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, we still win games with no fans in the stands. Not very often, but we still win games.
Really, Wags? You're gonna go.
You went there yourself. You said rec. I play recreational hockey.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
So,
but no.
I mean, Scott, you play baseball and other sports as well, kind of recreationally and things like that. Is there any difference between playing with fans in attendance and with no fans in attendance? Or are you just focused on the game and you can get yourself hyped up no matter what?
No, I mean, you have to be able to get yourself hyped up to a certain extent, no matter what. I mean, it does get you a little more jacked up when you know there's a bunch of people there and you hear that noise. But no matter what, if you're an athlete, you have to find a way to hype yourself up and get yourself ready for those games, fans or no fans, especially professional athletes.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how this changes up when the Cardinals get in town. You have like we said earlier, 32% fans in the stands when that happens. And I want to go ahead and jump over to baseball real quick. And I want to jump over to something that went down yesterday in the game between the Cardinals and Astros. I'm sure you guys have seen this. We shared it on our page, but I want to play this again because of the breakdown of this, because it's absolutely phenomenal. This was in yesterday's game between the Cardinals and Astros. Yadier Molina behind the plate still in the 7th inning. But I guess I want you guys to just watch this, and then we're going to discuss it as soon as we can.
Spring training game, and Yachty still behind the dish. They walk Maldonado, so now there's a base runner at first, and they bring in the young gun Siri. I don't think he's played a day in the MLB. He gives his gold chain to the first base coach. He's on first, and he's going to try and steal against the catcher who set the record for opening day starts in a row last year and will break it himself this year. So Yachty says right away, you know what, pitch? Let's check on this rookie, make sure he doesn't get ahead of himself over there. Just because it's 7th inning of a spring training game doesn't mean I'm not coming for him. Look at that. Calls for the outside fastball, eyes him down, says, yeah, all right, I'll come your way. Pitch is not where he wants it. Still goes for the pickoff. Almost gets him sliding back to first. Now Siri's shaking his head. No. You don't do that to me. No. And Yachty goes, okay, steal then. Take off. Let's see what happens. Next pitch, foul ball. So nothing going. Then high, dude didn't run. Now it's a 2-2 count. Yachty calls for the changeup. You know, pitcher's still got to work on things. Off speed pitch. Boom, nails him. And now Yachty's saying, you want to make eye contact? You gonna look at me? No. Okay, fine. All right. Nice knowing you. See you later. Hey, Woody, nice pitch, by the way. Called the changeup. Off-speed pitch. Look at this throw. Just an absolute thing of beauty. Dead. I wouldn't stand up and look at Yachty either.
That was just absolutely the greatest thing I could have ever seen yesterday. It just shows you that Yachty is our catcher, and you don't mess with him. I want to get your guys' reaction to what went down yesterday in that game, because that was pretty phenomenal.
Like the old saying, man, don't poke the bear. You know, the kid tried to show off and thought he was going to try to make a name for himself against one of the greatest defensive catchers of all time. And Yachty said, okay, you want to do it, do it. And the best part of that is that Yachty called a changeup on that pitch. You know, I mean, he could have had him throw a fastball, but he had him throw a changeup, and he still threw the kid out by 3 feet. You know, I mean, it just shows you how amazing Yachty is.
Yeah, I would have to say the same thing. I mean, Yachty, 39 or not, this man can still throw. He has a hose. It can still dictate a game, and that's going to be huge for the Cardinals this year because, I mean, I trust Kisner, but I think one more year under Yachty's tutelage will make Kisner that much better.
Yeah, I think so too. And to your point too, Scott, I mean, it wasn't just the fact that he called the changeup and still threw him out, but earlier in that progression when he had the high fastball, still was able to pull it down, snap a throw to first, and still almost get him. I mean, it just shows you the dedication to the craft that he has, and age may be catching up to him, but he is not going to let it actually catch him. He's going to continue to defy the odds and be one of the best defensive catchers in the game. And I tell you what, he's putting people on notice. And sometimes, even though his numbers as far as catching guys stealing is down, you have to look at that in context versus how many guys are actually trying to steal on him as well. It's not necessarily about the guys you're catching stealing. It's about the guys you're preventing from stealing because they have that mindset that I'm not going to try it because I'm probably going to get thrown out. I think that's the key that a lot of people miss when it comes to Molina's stats.
Man, why do these young kids, they have to know what they're facing? I know Houston doesn't face St. Louis a lot, but they do in a spring training, no matter if it's normal or not. Why would the kid think it's okay? Yeah, I'm going to run on Yachty. He's 39 years.
At 18, 19, 20 years old, did you think you were invincible?
Yeah, but even at that point, if Yachty, I wouldn't test Yachty.
Yeah,
So
you say that now because of hindsight.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. You're 18, 19-year-old. Had you ever heard of that kid before? You know, here's a kid trying to make a name for himself, pinch running in a spring training game, trying to make a name for himself. So he thinks, hey, I'm going to try to steal a base off one of the greatest defensive catchers in history to try to get people to notice him. So, yeah, you're going to do that because you're trying to stand out in spring training.
Yeah, if you steal a base on Yadier Molina, even if it's in spring training, that team's going to look at you and go, okay, you might prove useful, because if you can steal in spring training, you might be able to steal in the regular season. It may not be about his ability to get on base with base hits, but if he can pinch run and create havoc on the base paths like a Harrison Bader or a Tommy Edman, then teams are going to look at that. And, maybe he wanted to make a name for himself for stealing on Yadi, but he's also made a name for himself because he couldn't. And now people are going to look at him, and it may push him and motivate him to get better as well, which is something Houston can look at as well. Just because he got picked off in that fashion, it may be beneficial to him in the Astros, because it may humble him. It may force him to work even harder, and it may turn him into a very productive player at a young age as well. So I don't necessarily fault the kid for doing what he was doing. I kind of fault him for the whole Dikembe Mutombo finger wave, because, you still have to, even if you're going to challenge a guy like Molina, you kind of have to still at least respect him, and you don't do that, because once he did that, Yadi's just like, okay, go ahead, steal second. Let me show you what you're dealing with here. But I still don't blame him for taking the chance, because it is spring training, like Scott said. You're trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to break onto the team, and you have to take some chances, and that's what these young kids are doing, and it just kind of bit him in the butt because of the antics around it, I think.
Well, and I don't even know that it bit him in the butt, because everybody around the country knows who this kid is now, because they've seen this highlight on SportsCenter and MLB Network and in Houston. So other teams have taken notice too that, hey, this kid's not scared. He's going to go out there. He's got a little flash. He's got a lot of confidence. And if he doesn't make the Astros team, maybe somebody else picks him up because of what they saw yesterday.
It's interesting that, even coaches, I thought coaches would be like, be careful, this guy's a legend. And I guess he didn't listen to that either, but that's –
well, once again, that's exactly what we're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Yes, the coach may say, hey, look, you got to respect him, but they're not going to hold him back and say, whoa, don't run on him. Don't run on him. It's more about, hey, show me what you got. You're always looking for that guy that has a little bit of flash, a little bit of, energy about him that's going to try and push the envelope a little bit. So why would a coach pull him back from that?
Are you guys shocked that Yadi still has that kind of a hose at 39 years old?
No. Remember this time last year when you were telling us that you thought he'd lost a lot and he really wasn't that good defensively anymore?
Yeah, and how many times did I say my coined phrase, I'm going to coin it now, that I ate crow after that? How many times did I say that? Quite a bit.
I'm just reminding you.
You have to look at the condition that he's put himself in too. For the longest time, he was a little pudgy. He didn't necessarily take care of his body exactly like you'd want him to take care of it. His obviously growing up watching guys like Ivan Rodriguez and things like that, you could, a shorter catcher, a stout catcher still has all that skill and ability, but you look at what he's done over the last few years as he's aged, how he's gotten his body into shape, how he's changed his intake of food, his nutrition, all of that stuff. You can see how serious he's taking it. And that's why he's been able to kind of prolong the career and still stay at a high level, because he's matured. Weird. Funny how that works, right? A guy that matures and still stays productive and good and at a high level, that's crazy, right? So he's done that. And I'm not going to sit there and say he's got another 3-4 years in him, but he might last another 2 years in this system at a high level and really be beneficial to the Cardinals from there on after that too.
I was just going to say that, man. I was just going to ask you, how long does he have left? Because I don't think this is his last year. But at the same time, is this a year where Andrew Knizner can prove his worth and maybe catch on somewhere else? Because if Yadi's playing 2 more years, chances are he's playing here, right? And if he does, Knizner's blocked. And do you guys think he gets traded? Do you guys think this is a year where he proves it?
I think Andrew Knizner is blocked no matter what he does, because Herrera, you got Yadi here and you've got Herrera coming. And, from everything that everybody talks about in baseball, Herrera is the next young stud catcher in baseball. So I don't think Knizner's days behind the plate in St. Louis are very long anyway. But if he does show that he can hit, that doesn't mean that next year with the DH, maybe Andrew Kisner's your designated hitter. Otherwise, I think, he gets traded because I don't think he's long for catching in St. Louis.
And that's okay. And that's definitely okay. I mean, Carson Kelly was a guy that was the next guy up, and Molina outlasted him, and that turned into Paul Goldschmidt. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And we know that Joe hates trading away young pitchers, but I'm sure he's fine trading away young catchers for something. We'll see how that plays out. How are these young pitchers doing that you're missing, Joe?
Yeah, not good. But we did get one back in Zach Thompson from, I think he was one of the guys sent to Cleveland, was he not? Wasn't he? I'm trying to think.
Cardinals drafted Thompson.
No, I mean, didn't the Cardinals trade him to Cleveland and he was back, or was that Kaminsky?
That was Kaminsky.
Okay, I'm wrong then, but
yeah.
You know what? We're gonna get. And I don't mean to cut you off, but we've got our merchandise line, which you can go to Teespring as well and get some Crunch Time merchandise. We're gonna have to create a T-shirt like we did with the Nolan Arenado one, and it's Joe's face, and he's got the voice bubble coming out, and it says, "I have to eat crow." That's gonna have to be the next one, isn't it?
It's probably gonna have to be that, yeah. Because how many times have I said it on this show?
At least weekly.
If not nightly.
Very, very, very true. Very, very true. The Cardinals are in action right now, facing off against the Marlins. It is 7-7 in the top of the seventh. KK not long for this game. Didn't even get out of the first inning, but the Cardinals have fought their way back. They actually took a lead on a Delvin Perez triple in the fifth, but the Marlins have come back to tie it up in the sixth inning. And I'm going to talk to Mike Claiborne about this in a little bit when he joins us. But I was ask you guys right now. Derek Gould had a great article in the Post-Dispatch yesterday about the progression of Delvin Perez. I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on where you see him at, and do you think he has the ability to actually make the Major League roster here in the next couple of years?
He's got to show that he can hit. When he was a first round pick, he hit a ton of home runs. The year that he got picked, and then he got busted for steroids, which is why he fell, and the Cardinals were able to draft him in the first round. But after that, he lost all that weight, got down to 150 or 160 pounds, and wasn't able to hit. He's worked out, got himself back into good physical shape. I think they said he's about 190, 195 now. So if he can prove that he can hit, because he's a good defensive shortstop, and if he can show that he can make solid contact, he's got a chance to make the team in the next couple of years, because even though it's been 5 years, he's still only 22. It's been 5 years since he got drafted, but he's still only 22. And the Cardinals don't have a lot of middle infield depth in the minor league system, at least at the high levels. So he's definitely got potential to show that if he can hit and hit consistently, that he can potentially make this ball club or be a trade piece.
With Paul DeJong at short, though, is he a second base possibility, or is – I mean, if you bring a guy like that up, he's going to play, but he can't play over Paul DeJong.
But here's the thing, though. Paul DeJong's going to be due a new contract here soon, so you have to look at it in the same way that you looked at the Colton Wong situation. Will Paul DeJong deserve the kind of money that he may get in the free agent market at that time? So you have to kind of weigh that possibility. If that's the case, then at that point, DeJong gets signed long-term, then you can trade a guy like Perez, like Scott was saying, or you do the same thing that happened with Colton Wong. You let him walk and he gets paid money, and Delvin Perez comes in and assumes the mantle as the next Cardinals shortstop. So I don't think it's necessarily a matter of moving him to second, because moving a guy from short to second is not as easy as people sometimes make it out to be. It's a different look. It's different footing. Right. It's different positioning. It's a lot different than most people anticipate it's going to be. So to have a guy come up through the system for 5-6 years, played shortstop before that in high school, and then to sit there and say, okay, this year we're going to make you a second baseman. It doesn't happen overnight. So you have to kind of make that decision on if Paul DeJong's going to stick with you long-term. And if he does stick with you long-term and you do like what you have in Perez, then yes, maybe you look at it and say, okay, maybe we move you to third base, even though they got Nolan Gorman. Maybe they move him to third base and get him some work day. Or maybe they say, we're going to take the next 2 years and turn you into a second baseman, and then you can make your ascension from there. It really just hinges on what they think Paul DeJong is going to bring to this team and if they sign him long term.
See, I think they keep him as a shortstop because you don't have backup shortstop depth. You need somebody that you can come up here and give Paul DeJong a break and be a backup shortstop. I don't know that Perez will ever be a starter in the major leagues, but I think he can be, because of his defense, I think he can be a quality backup to give Paulie a lot of room, because I think he's going to be a Cardinal for a long time, and hopefully our second base situation is going to be figured out here shortly in a Mr. Nolan Gorman. So I don't know that there's a whole lot of openings for starting infielders, but I think Perez can definitely be that backup role.
If he can hit, like you said, if he can prove that he can hit, be a bench player, be a guy that can come in and spell DeJong in games or start a game, start game 3 of a 4-game set or something like that, that makes a ton of sense. And once again, not having that infield depth, at least up the middle, makes you leery of trading a guy like a Dalvin Perez if an offer comes down the table. And I'm just like you. I think he probably will be here long term. And same thing with Paul DeJong. I think both of those guys will be Cardinals for the foreseeable future. And that means the future is bright, because can you imagine an infield, Goldschmidt, Gorman, DeJong, Arenado, and you're able to bring in a Dalvin Perez to spell a DeJong? It's not like you're going to be losing much. And that's something that should be scary for the NL Central for years to come.
It should. And, we may see Nolan Gorman up here. It'll be interesting to see what Claiborne thinks about that. But, it's possible we see Nolan Gorman up here before the end of this year, playing some second base, filling in, starting to get his feet wet at the major league level when we get into August and September.
Still think we're going to have the DH, Scott? Because you said it wasn't quite done, that we might still see it. But at this point, you'd have to think no, right?
And right now, it doesn't look good. But again, you got to remember that last year, expanded playoffs and the DH literally got announced like 2 hours before the first pitch of the first ball game. So while it doesn't look good and it's probably not going to happen this year, it still could.
Okay. It's going to be interesting to see another year of normalcy for the NL until it goes to full-time DH. You know what I mean? You saw it 1 year, and I thought you would keep it, but I'm kind of glad it's going back, because you're going to see fans get to watch baseball for one more year. I know some baseball fans that will only watch because they love National League Baseball, and they love that, the pitcher hitting ninth or pitcher hitting eighth, that sort of thing. But, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm going to cut you off. So when it goes to a DH next year, they're not going to watch because pitchers don't hit?
Yeah.
So when there's a DH next year, people that are going to stop watching because pitchers don't hit?
No, they're going to stop watching because there's less strategy. I know a guy firsthand. I bowl in a league on Friday nights. He's not on the same team, but he's like, yeah, I don't watch it because I never liked the American League. I never liked the DH. So he won't watch baseball. That's how stubborn some baseball fans are. You know this, Scott.
That's not a real baseball fan. That's not a real baseball fan then. I mean, I don't like the DH coming to the National League either, but I'm not going to stop watching baseball because of it.
Yeah, I'm not either, but there are some people out there that will, and I don't understand their logic. But
I guarantee you that they will not stop watching baseball, especially if the Cardinals are winning. If the Cardinals are winning, they may start the season and say, I'm not going to watch any of the games, but the Cardinals start winning, they're first place, they make the playoffs. I bet you, Cardinal gear comes out, and those games are watched.
Wags, I'll say this. He didn't watch last year.
I don't blame him for not watching last year. Last year was a train wreck.
I'm talking in terms of the whole league. He didn't watch last year because of it, because the DH was there. He's told me many times, dude.
Well, and once again, Scott's right. That's not a true baseball fan. That's just somebody trying to make a statement, and it's not going to work.
Nope, not at all.
Not going to work at all. Before Mike Claiborne comes on, I'm guessing he's going to be joining us after this seventh inning wraps up, because I'm not sure. Do they play just 7 innings down in spring training right now?
He said he had to be out of there by the 6th inning. So, either it might be a little bit after just because he's trying to get home.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? So
makes sense. Well, before we get to that, I just want to give a shout out. It is International Women's Day, and I think a lot of people kind of poo-poo these kind of days because they're idiots. But it is International Women's Day, and we just kind of want to thank and put our support behind all the women that are in the sports industry, whether it's management like Carolyn Kindle Betts with the St. Louis City SC team, the ownership group there, whether it's in broadcasting or teamwork or anything associated with sports and just in general. We just want to celebrate them and thank them for continuing with their passion and showing that this is not just a men's world, that women have a place in the sports industry, deservedly so. And we just want to continue to send our support and our thanks and do anything that we possibly can to help grow not just women's sports, but women's involvement in sports, broadcasting, ownership, leadership, any of those things. We just want to support their efforts. And once again, they're always welcome on our show at any point to spread their name and their knowledge of sports as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Absolutely.
we've had the one I can remember. We've had Chelsea on a few times, and she's kind of talked to us about what she's been doing. And it's nice to hear people are still following indie ball too, because there isn't much talk about it. It is really cool, and it's really cool to see a girl love the game of baseball as much as I do, or as much as, it's just good to see. I know that sounds kind of bad, but I like people like that. I love girls like that know the game. There you see so many women broadcasters in the industry now. It's crazy. It's awesome, because you wouldn't think that they're women. I don't know. Just where I'm going with this. I don't want to sound worse than I already sound right now. Wow.
Scott,
please help me out here.
I don't even know what to say after that, Joe. Yeah,
no,
like Wag said, we just want to salute all the women in sports and in profession in general, all women in any profession that are out there working hard and succeeding in their crafts, because it's not just women in sports, it's all women in all fields. So today's their day to appreciate them. So, make sure you go out and do that.
Yes. Hug your mom, hug your girlfriend, hug your wife and girlfriend, whatever works. But it is. This is about a celebration of International Women's Day. We want to make sure that we are supporting all women out there, because let's face it, we're 3 white males. We've been given a lot of privilege, and it's not something that I take lightly. And I want to make sure that not just for women, but for anything else. We've had we had Mike Claiborne on last year, and Dr. Doswell from the Negro League Hall of Fame. It's about these conversations about not sitting here saying one group is better than the other or what have you, or anything like that. It's really about trying to just come together as equals and build each other up, regardless of any differentiation that people can make. We're all in this together. And yeah, maybe we celebrate different people at different days, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we're going to be successful if we support each other in the right way.
The end of the day, everyone everywhere should be celebrated. Everyone's great for their own reason. And that's basically the message I, along with you guys, want to put out there. I mean, it's sad that there are only days that, technically you should celebrate. You should celebrate it all the time. That's my whole point. It's why do you think they put days on the calendar like this? I mean, they should be celebrated all the time.
They should, but it's just to bring more awareness to it. Just like the same reason that you have Jackie Robinson Day, or the reason that there's going to be a Lou Gehrig's Day this year. It's just, while they should be thought about and and honored and remembered every day. It's just that one special day to bring even more recognition and to make sure it's in everybody's conscience.
For that on that note, Scott, where's the stand a man day? I'm not being a biased Cardinal fan here, but what he's done for the game, I mean, he was one hell of a hitter, one hell of a man. So by that account, where's stand a man day?
Well, I mean, that's different because, Stan, while he was a great player, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. And then because of Lou Gehrig, as great as he was, and the whole ALS thing, and bringing awareness to that is why they created that day. So, while Stan is great, and, every day in St. Louis is Stan the Man Day, isn't it? Especially during baseball season.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, I think we're just going to go ahead and leave that off now and move past that.
Yeah.
Before Mike Claiborne comes on, I want to talk a little bit about college basketball scene, because you've got tournament week this week. The A-10 did just wrap up their tournament over the weekend. SLU did not make it to the finals and now kind of puts themselves on the bubble when it comes to the NCAA tournament this year. Mizzou gets underway this week. They're in the first-round matchup against Georgia, and then Illinois plays later this week as well, Friday night, I believe, in the Big Ten tournament. I kind of want to get your guys' status on where these teams are going to start lining up, because after their big win over the weekend, Illinois has kind of solidly put themselves as the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Do they run the risk of falling off of that line if they have a poor showing in the Big Ten tournament, or are they pretty locked in to one of those number one seeds?
I think they're locked into that number one seed. When you beat Michigan and Ohio State in a couple of days, they beat Michigan pretty convincingly. They beat Ohio State. You beat Minnesota. You beat Wisconsin. They beat all the Big Ten power teams. I think they're in pretty safe with that number one seed.
Yeah, I think they're in pretty safe too. And they moved up to number 3 in the AP pool. And, there's some pretty tough tests in that Big Ten tournament. But yeah, I think they're locked into that number one seed. And it'll be interesting to see where they are placed, what region they are placed in. And I say that because there were times where Mizzou, you'd think they'd be in the Midwest region. No, they're in the South region. Can you guys explain that to me, how these teams are placed? Because I don't quite understand it.
It's pretty much just the committees. We're going to put this team here. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. I mean, you usually see a Kentucky or a Kansas or one of those guys in the Midwest region more often than not, so that they're going to get some of their fans there. But for the most part, there's no real rhyme or reason to why teams get moved to different regions. And this year, it's not really going to matter what region you're in anyway, because everybody's playing in Indianapolis anyway.
They reward the higher seeds. So, when you have a Kansas as a high seed, they're going to be in the Midwest. When you have a Kentucky as a number one seed, they're going to be in the Midwest. When you get into those 7, 8, 9, 10 seeds, that's a big reason why you don't see it. And they also don't want to make matchups against conferences. So, you may have a Kansas as a number one seed. You may have, an Oklahoma as a 2 seed. You're not going to put them in the same bracket because you don't want a Big 12 final essentially lined up for the NCAA tournament. So, but what do you guys got?
That's not necessarily true, because in 93, when Mizzou was the number one seed and they were the number one seed in the tournament, they stuck them in the West.
That's true. It's big time bias. I'll put it that way. Mizzou always gets screwed. All right, well, we're going to put that off to the side real quick, because we're joined now by Mr. Mike Claiborne, coming to you from Jupiter. Mike, thank you again for joining us. We had you on last year when we were talking with Dr. Doswell with the Negro League Hall of Fame, but it's great to have you back. And how's the weather down there?
Well, to be honest with you, it's a little chilly today. It's a little windy, a little chilly. Can you hear me now? Sorry. No, there we go.
Okay, we can hear
you. It's a little windy. It's a little chilly right now.
Well, we're getting 70-degree weather up here, so we're pretty happy. It's pretty nice. Have you gotten a chance to work on your golf game down there?
Oh yeah, I'm doing that like 3 days a week minimum, man. I have my priorities in place.
Oh man! Well, real quickly, I want to ask you
There
about
you
this
go.
because we just played it on the show here. We did the whole Yadier Molina thing from yesterday. Him throwing out the guy, telling him to steal second. I kind of want to get your thoughts on that video and what you saw in Yadier Molina yesterday.
Well, I think Yachty was just reminding this young player who he was, and he wanted to make sure he was having fun with it, but he was also showing how serious the game is. And whether it's a spring training game or game 7, it doesn't make a difference to Yachty. He wants to make sure these youngsters understand that he's Yadier Molina for a reason. And it was funny. I was talking to Dusty Baker today about it. He said, "Hey, it was a great lesson for everybody to learn about what commitment's all about." And what he was able to do, and he's Yadier Molina for a reason.
That he is. And going off of that, Claves, what have you liked so far in spring training? What are some of the things that you saw that you like?
Well, that's a good question. And to be honest with you, there's not a lot of things I like yet. The pitching has not been what you want it to be, although we're in the first real week, the second real week, rather. The offense hasn't been there either. But I look at spring training in three sections. You have that first week where everybody's just trying to get a feel. They're tracking balls. They're just throwing fastballs, really not trying to refine things. Then you have that second week of adjustment. All right, these are the things I need to really be better at. And you start doing those. And then the third segment is also when you have yourself getting ready for the season and starting to get yourself in a game mode of the approach and how you do things in game situations. And so that first week, I don't really take a lot away from it. It's this week I think we'll start to see some things take place. We'll start to see them maybe cut back on certain players' playing time compared to others. So this will be something I think we should be paying closer attention to.
I think so too, and it's interesting because you're starting to see.
Going back to the.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, go ahead, Joe.
You're starting to see this lineup how maybe Mike Schilt wants to put it with Mike Claiborne's. You're sorry.
Sometimes I'm Mike Claiborne. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes I am.
But no. So
Joe's stolen my name a couple of times too, so you got to watch out.
You have Nolan Arenado second and Goldschmidt third. What would you think about putting a guy like Arenado second and Goldie third?
The problem you have there is they're not very fast base runners. Neither one's going to get from first to third on a base hit. They're very good base runners. And I don't know who will hit cleanup. It's not Paul DeJong. I don't think Paul DeJong's having a very good spring so far. That could change, but he has not shown that he could be a cleanup hitter. And they don't have anybody else in the lineup who I think would even be close to that.
So talking about hitters not looking good so far in spring training, what have you seen with Matt Carpenter? Is it the same kind of thing that we've seen the last couple of years where his bat just doesn't look fast enough, like he's lost his bat speed, or do you think there's something physical?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, here's the thing we have to take into account. Matt Carpenter has not had a good, complete season since maybe 2015, 2016. Now, I know he had the 36 home runs in the one season, but that was basically all in a little bit more than a month. He's a career 266 hitter now. And I think that when you add that up, throw in the fact he's 35, it just may not work anymore. And you know what? It happens to everyone in this game. So what I'm saying about Matt Carpenter is nothing negative. It's just the reality that we haven't seen anything that gives us a feel that he's going to snap out of this when we've done everything from watching him lose weight to muscle up to work with a different swing. He's wearing batting gloves when it gets cold outside. I mean, I don't know what else you can do other than maybe say to yourself, he just doesn't have it.
And that's sad because he has been a Cardinal staple for a long time, a fan favorite for sure. But we now have a guy here that could eventually become a new fan favorite. We got Tom Ackerman's excitement about it. We pushed it for the last 3 years. I mean, hell, we made T-shirts for it. What was your reaction to getting Nolan Arenado on this team and the trade that went down?
Shocked. I never saw it coming. I mean, I knew that they had kicked the tires on it before, but I know his agent, and his agent kind of engineered this whole thing. And basically, what he told the Rockies was the fact, hey, he's going to opt out. He's going to walk away with nothing, or you're going to walk away with nothing. So you might want to try and make a deal. The Cardinals come back and say, yeah, we're interested, but we can't guarantee us being able to sign him. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a list of players to pick from, and you can have those guys. And, oh, by the way, we need you to pick up part of the salary. And, Colorado took the deal, and it's a good deal for us. I hope it's going to be a good deal for Colorado down the road. They're going to be out from under a big contract, but they'll also get some young prospects that I think can play. I think Montero's a player. We know Austin Gomber's a player. The other guys are going to need some time to develop, but when it's all said and done, it could bode well for both teams. And plus, they need the money because they've got to make a decision on what they're going to do with Trevor Story.
So did Mo himself did Mo himself get that back to positive territory in terms of, making this happen? This was a deal that took 3 years to happen. Who was on the Cardinal side, who was the guy that dictated this?
It was Mo. I mean, John Mozeliak is really good at what he does. He had a great team of guys working with him, Randy Flores, Mike Gersh, who are also working with him and trying to put this deal together because it was a rather complex deal contractually, and also making sure they provided players that were attractive but not mouthwatering. And that's where Randy Flores comes into play because he drafted most of these guys, and so he had a better understanding of what their future was going to be. So it was a team effort. It was a team effort, but obviously John Mozeliak's the president of the team, so he's obviously going to be in a position where his name is going to be on. We're only going to remember Mo. We're not going to remember Flo. We're not going to remember Gersh. We're going to remember John Mozeliak for doing the deal.
So since you've got Arenado and Goldie in the middle of that lineup, do you think the Cardinals now have the best 3-4 middle of the lineup in the Central Division? Do you think that makes them head and shoulders the favorite in this division going into the season?
Well, I thought they were the favorites only because they had a little bit more pitching than everyone else. The offense was a concern, and I think it still is. I think Milwaukee is a team you better pay attention to. I think they have the best defensive outfield in baseball, or certainly in the National League. And when you look at that, their pitching is okay. Their bullpen is pretty good. They've got some guys that can swing the bat. So I really think Milwaukee will be the biggest challenger for the Cardinals in the division. As far as 2-3 or 3-4, I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see, because the key to that is you've got to have guys getting on in front of them and a guy who can make them pay behind them in order for it to be effective, because a lot of teams will say, you know what, we'll pick our poison. We'll only pitch to one of them. And maybe we don't pitch to either one of them if there's, 2 outs and a base open. We might just take our chances with whoever's going to be in that 5th spot in the order. So I think there's still a lot of proving that needs to take place for this team.
And you touched on it, the pitching. That was going to be the question mark coming into the season. Obviously, the team has depth. They've got a lot of young pitchers, but the struggles of KK didn't make it out of the first inning again today. Carlos looked good in the Caribbean Series. Not so much the other night, but still has the ability to be a good starting pitcher. We don't know about Miles Michaelis because of now the shoulder after the forearm surgery. Does the team need to add another veteran starter? And did they wait too long and miss out on Jake Odorizzi?
That's a great question. I know that they kicked the tires on it, but I think they feel like between Alex Reyes, Daniel Ponce de Leon, John Gant, who all have major league experience, they might be able to find another starter and perhaps 2 out of that group. You got Johan Oviedo, a young man who I think has got destined for big things in Major League Baseball. So I think they would like to search from within. But your point about maybe looking for a little bit more experience is something that I think that they probably pondered. But because of the fact that the guys I just mentioned all have major league experience, is probably a reason why they want to stay within before they have to look around. Now, with that said, I'm going to make this prediction. that if they get into a chase, if they get into a hunt and they either have a big lead or they want to load up for postseason, don't be surprised to see them go out on the market and get a well-known pitcher that maybe another team would like to move because of his contract.
Any names that you would target?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you a guy who I would take a long look at is a guy like Max Scherzer. Washington has a pretty good everyday lineup, but I'm not sure if they have enough bullpen, and I don't know if they have enough depth. But if they lose a guy, they could find themselves making some deals, and throw in the fact that you got to pay Trey Turner, you got to pay Josh, first baseman, and I can't think of his name. Yeah. And they got another player they're going to have to pay down the road. So they have three guys that are all going to command legitimate salaries here in the very near future. So maybe they like to move a big salary like Max Scherzer. I'm just saying, a lot of things have to happen, but I think you look for a rental in that regard, or maybe a guy who's at the end of a contract. But I don't think they would hesitate to go out and find more pitching if they have to. Because remember, they've got $60 million coming off the books after this year. So they have a little loose change. They have some payroll muscle to have here.
Yeah, and it's good to have. Also, what else is good to have? Derek Gould did have a good article this week in the Post about Delvin Perez. The young man has bulked up to 198 pounds and looks very different from just a year ago. Where do you see him? Do you see him being an everyday player in the big leagues?
Yeah, I do. He had a triple today. He lined one into the left center field gap, and he can run. He can do everything. The thing is, he just had to grow up. I mean, he was a very, he was 17 coming out of Puerto Rico. He was a little immature, and he had to grow up a little bit. Now, he put on the muscle, as you mentioned. I think he still has to prove that he's got a bat. He's got a good glove. He's got range. He's a guy that certainly can be a big leaguer and could probably start in another year or two. I think you'll start him off in Double-A, see what he does there, maybe move him up mid-season into Triple-A and let him start off in Triple-A next year, and then see where it goes after that.
So another big question, Mike, is the outfield. Do you see a front runner so far in the left field battle? Do you think it'll be Tyler O'Neill or Lane Thomas, or do you think either one holds on and they have to go out and make a trade at the deadline to bring in an outfielder to fill that spot?
I think Lane Thomas right now has got he's been better because he's played more. Tyler O'Neill's starting to swing the bat a little bit better. So I think that debate is still up for grabs. Harrison Bader will probably play tomorrow. He's had a little bit of a barking elbow, and he swung the bat a little bit better since we've been here in Florida, but he did last year. The problem is when he faces these right-handers, they carve him up throwing that slider away, and he chases it or he's trying to pull everything. I always believe when you have a guy like this, the key is not try. If you're a right-handed hitter, don't try and pull it. Try and knock down the second baseman. Try and go to right center field. And if you do that, your swing will dictate what's going to happen. And you'll find yourself eventually pulling balls anyway. But the key is to try and stay up the middle, to stay in the middle of the field, or try, as I said, knock down the second baseman.
Now, you said earlier, you see spring training in 3 parts. It's still very, very early in camp, but is there anyone right now that's impressing you that you weren't necessarily looking at when camp opened?
Zach Thompson, former first-round pick out of Kentucky, has pitched well. Edmundo Sosa may have the best hands on the infield, and we talk about 2 guys that have gold gloves in Goldschmidt and Arenado. I think he can be a utility guy. Other than that, nobody is really just like has wowed me with regard to saying where this guy come from. I still think that there's some work to go. As I mentioned, I think we'll see some cuts after this week where some guys will have their playing time reduced. But right now, no one has just really just wowed me with their play.
What is your reaction to the news that Busch Stadium will actually see fans?
I would love to hug every one of them. Last year was brutal, man. I've never gone through something like that where we didn't have fans and the piped in sound got old really quick. We see it down here where fans are like, it's kind of quiet at the ballpark because I think they've been away from it for so long. They didn't know how to act. And, you can barely, they're whispering and, there's not a lot of action. And let's face it, these games down here this week have not been ideal. A lot of walks, bad strike zone by a couple of umpires. It hasn't been clean baseball. And I think sometimes fans get bored. I think COVID has created issues now with people where they don't have the patience. They'll move on to something else that attracts their interest. And right now, baseball is something they want to embrace, but it hasn't given them the reason to embrace because the game's having what I wouldn't call stellar at this point.
So jumping back real quick to the Cardinals and their pitching, how concerned do you think we should be with Miles Mikolas at this point?
Anytime you have a shoulder, you should be concerned. It's something that we don't know where it started or how it started. I don't know whether he was overcompensating because of the arm surgery he had. And we just don't know enough about it. I know he's scheduled to throw this week, but I'd be shocked if he's ready to go when we leave spring training.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. After the year he had last year, having to go through the surgery.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you feel for him, definitely. You touched a little bit on how last year was just so weird, and it has kind of made things different this year. Baseball kind of was like a guinea pig last year for other leagues when it came to how to handle the virus, testing, all of that stuff. And, the league and the Cardinals especially kind of got bit by not fully knowing how to deal with this. Having been around the team in a certain extent last year and now this year, have you seen any significant changes to the structure of things that will potentially help prevent an outbreak like we saw last year? And do you still think there's a chance that we can see teams miss a week or more?
Boy, I'll tell you, if they do, shame on them. I look at the Cardinals, and I'll give you a good example. I don't know if you guys have ever been down here to Jupiter for spring training, but nothing takes place inside the facility anymore. They have tents set up for everything from eating to working out to meeting. The only thing they do inside is change clothes. They spread out the whole complex where nobody's cramped in one room together anymore. You can't bring food or anything into the facility. Everything has to be done there. They've encouraged players not to go out. What they were just allowed this week, if they do go out to dinner, they have to be outside. They can't eat indoors. And they've been very conscious of it. I commend what the Cardinals are doing. I think Major League Baseball probably could have been better, especially when I look at how the NBA has been proactive. You look at what the National Hockey League has been able to do. Now, granted, they're involved in indoor sports, and they had a little bit better control with the bubble. But I think sometimes they've kind of overdone it. And I think media has had to pay the price for it as far as access is concerned. There were better ways to do this than what baseball elected to do. And it's frustrating. And I'll be honest with you, for people who are just now starting to cover the game is about to change in how it's being covered. So there are going to be a lot of guys that are going to miss out on what I thought was some of the best parts about being in the business. So we'll have to wait and see how many rules will be implemented after this year. And remember, you got a collective bargaining agreement negotiation coming up. And I can promise you that baseball will throw the players a carrot by trying to reduce the media's role and involvement and access. And the players will take the bait, and, the game, it's a game changer.
Well, and I was actually going to ask that sort of thing at the very end. And really, what does the future of broadcasting look like in your eyes? Are there enough young play-by-play guys or girls to keep the legacies of guys like Shannon, Buck, Scully alive? Or are we really
haven't met any.
Haven't met any? Oh, no.
Well, and that's not all bad. I think, Mike Shannon didn't become Mike Shannon, the broadcaster that we've known over the last few years, yesterday. I mean, it takes time and experience and knowing the game and knowing people. I will say this, it'll be interesting to see who the next generation of storytellers will be. That's a lost art in the game for a variety of reasons. But I think for young people who want to get in this business, this is the worst time to get in the business because of all the changes. And they're not paying guys what they used to. I mean, there are a lot of guys who living in their parents' basement because of the fact that, they can't get a credible job in the business. And, you listen to some of these other teams and their broadcasters and the horror stories that they're enduring during the pandemic, and how they're being treated by their team or their broadcast outlet or whatever. It's not a fun day at the beach. It really isn't. And I think we're going to see some significant changes. One of the things I think is important is the rights holders should still have a better access to this situation, from everything from being able to travel again on the planes with the team, with the players, to having a little bit more personal access with players, managers, and coaches.
Yeah, those are a lot of horror stories. Hopefully we can get out of this soon, because I'd like to get out and do more things when it comes to, show interaction, stuff like that. But let's jump to opening day. Will there still be the pomp and circumstance of opening day, or will there not?
That's a good question. That's a good question, because for safety reasons, and they want to follow a certain protocol, I'm not sure what that's going to look like. We're going to have guys riding in cars around the warning track. I don't know. How much spread out will they be when they get introduced, when they come out on the field? They're going to maintain 6 feet of distance. So that means they'll have a guy from home plate and a guy out in the right field. I mean, so it's going to be different. I haven't heard what the plans are, but I would certainly think they would be a little different than what we've been accustomed to.
It won't be like last year, though, right, where there was really no ceremony.
No, you're right. They'll do something because we'll have fans in the ballpark. We'll be better prepared. I think we know what works and what doesn't work. And who knows, maybe they'll have a situation where the virus or the vaccine would be available. I mean, there's talk of that as the country continues to be vaccinated. I don't know how that's going to work with the teams or the players. So there are a lot of things that still are up in the air that they haven't shared with me, because I personally don't think they know what they're going to do.
I will say, because I work at the ballpark as an usher, they have told us that they're planning on the Clydesdales being there. That's the one bit of news that they have shared with us about the opening day ceremonies.
They must have been vaccinated already. So I don't know.
They've told us that the Clydesdales will be there, and they're hoping to have Hall of Famers.
I hope so. The fans have certainly been in dire need of wanting to have something to cheer about. And it's going to be a tough year because, we lost 2 greats last year in Gibson and Lou Brock, and we never had a chance to truly pay homage to those 2 gentlemen and what they've meant to Cardinal baseball. So again, I'm sure whatever they do, they will put great thought into it. I just don't know what it's going to be. And I've kind of taken it upon myself to just accept what it is and look forward to hopefully next year being a little bit more closer to what we've been accustomed to.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about the Hall of Famers that normally appear at Busch Stadium. We've lost Gibson. We've lost Brock. It's changing a little bit. And we had a little bit of a Facebook argument a couple weeks ago, right around the time that Albert Pujols news came out that he was potentially retiring after the year. And some of our fans, for some reason, thought that he didn't accomplish enough significant milestones as a Cardinal and may not get his number retired at Busch Stadium. And I just want you
hold on. So,
I know.
So these fans are on a work release program from the penitentiary where they didn't have access to any communication vehicle where they knew about or saw his career. These are people who were had their sentences commuted, or were they on one of the SpaceX rocket ships that we didn't know about that went to Mars and back, and they've been gone for the last 20 years?
I wish I could believe that those were the answers to that question, but these are some people that actually work in the industry a little bit as well. Not big in the industry,
but apparently not, because once the word gets out that they're that stupid, then they won't have a job much longer. Well, I guess my question is, what were they looking for? We saw 10 of the best years of any player in a Cardinal uniform, any player. And for them to say he didn't do enough, he had Hall of Fame numbers before he left St. Louis. So whatever that person saw, obviously drug testing should be stepped up a bit, or whatever drugs they're taking, I need to definitely stay away from those. That's insane.
The argument that they were making was that he didn't finish his career with the Cardinals, so he does not deserve to have his number retired by the Cardinals. And I'm like, man, dude, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to go into the Cardinals Hall of Fame. The team retires all Hall of Fame numbers anyway. And I just wanted to get somebody that is associated with the Cardinals to sit there and say, you're an idiot. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
So
and a Cardinals Hall of
I'm
Famer.
going to give you some advice. Is this a person that's a friend of yours?
I wouldn't say a close friend.
Good. That's good. Yeah. That's the first thing, because if he is, you need to cut his ass off right now. All right. Secondly, you should make sure you change your phone number where he can no longer contact you. Thirdly, you need to alert the authorities that this person may be troubled in some other areas and may not be able to. You're concerned for his own personal safety. He may do something to himself.
We'll do that right away.
Yeah, you need to get on that, man.
Oh my gosh.
You need to alert somebody that this person is struggling with some things.
Oh my gosh.
Joe, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do, and I need to get away from that. That's bad. That is bad. So getting back to it, the Central looks very weak. The Cardinals have a penchant for players to, play. They've had a penchant to play down to the competition over the years. With the division being weak, yes, the Cardinals may be able to beat the teams in their own division, but can they beat the teams like the Padres, the Dodgers? Where do they rank in that conversation?
Good question. All those teams have pitching. The Dodgers and San Diego on paper have better offense. So I think it's just going to be up to the Cardinals. And if you go back to over the last few times the Cardinals have been in postseason and gotten to the World Series, they didn't have the best team. Think about 2006. You got in on the last day. Think about 2011, a similar situation. So my thought process on that is just get in. And you just never know what can happen. You go back to 82, same thing. So, it's one of those situations where I think you just have to play the schedule, consistently maintain the fundamentals of how to win, and then let postseason take care of itself. It is a watered-down division. As I mentioned earlier, I think Milwaukee will be better than people think. Cincinnati can swing the bat. I don't know if they have enough pitching. The Cubs are a team that, when you look at them on paper, they've got Baez, they've got Rizzo, they've got Bryant. They've got some good players. They got two pitchers that own the Cardinals, so they might have a say-so in this. And then the Pirates are a team that they're so bad that you almost forget to respect that they are a major league team. And we found that out last year when the Pirates came in and broke up the Cardinals' furniture early in the year. So you can't take any of these teams for granted. But you have to make sure you strike first. You don't want to play catch-up ball against these teams because they can't hold you off. So it'll be more competitive than you think. But as you ask about San Diego and the Dodgers, they have to play too. On paper, they look really, really good. I like the managers for both of those teams. So it's just a matter of who's hot when you face them.
So what do you think the biggest strength of our team is going into this season, Mike? Do you think it's the bullpen with all the flamethrowers they have at the back end of that thing?
Yeah. No, I think it's that. I think obviously the defense at the corners is important. But I think the bullpen might be as deep as anyone I've seen the Cardinals have in a long time, because there's going to be a couple of good guys that would be either in the bullpen, or they're either going to have to release them, trade them, or send them to the minors. Think about this. You're going to have three lefties out of the bullpen, and Miller, Cabrera, and the other left-hander. Gosh, it would be Tyler Webb.
Yeah.
So you've got those three guys, and there's another lefty that I'm not thinking about right now. And you think at the right side, you've got Hicks, you got Helsley, you got Cabrera, you got who else do we have? Gallegos, Ponce, Gant, Reyes. That's a pretty strong bullpen.
Yeah, it really is, and it's kind of an embarrassment of riches, and you just hope that, they stay healthy. I mean, obviously, we're seeing what the Blues are going through and all the injuries that they're suffering, but the Cardinals have the depth where they need it. I know you're going to have to get going here soon because you got some more stuff that you have to do for your stuff. I kind of want to get this real quick. Mike Shannon is hanging it up after this year, and you've gotten a chance to work with him for a long time. Give us some Shannonisms or story that like sticks out in your mind that's pure Mike Shannon. That's and you know what? You're on Facebook, so you don't have to worry about language.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Gosh, this was a few years ago. So we're in Houston, and I'm going to work with him that weekend. And so he says, "Hey, big boy, what time you going to the ballpark?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be on the first bus." "Yeah, you don't want to be on that bus. I'll take you. I got a car. I'm renting a car." And he would normally do that. So we rent a car, and this is like the first version of the push button ignition. All right. So it's like 141 degrees outside. We're in Houston in July, and it's just god awfully hot. So he turns the air conditioner down to like about 14 degrees. Okay. My nipples are starting to get hard. It's so cold. So we get to the park. We go in, we do the game. So LaRussa says, "Hey, you want to go to dinner?" "Yeah, all right, we'll go." So it's Mike, myself, and Jim Jackson, our engineer. We're walking out on the parking lot, and the parking lot's empty. Everybody's gone. And I look, and there's this water under the car. And I said, "I didn't know it rained out here," while we were inside because it was a dome. So as we get closer to the car, there's like this ice on the windshield. What the hell? We get in the car. We realize Mike had never turned the car off. He just sat there because he wasn't used to the push button, and he didn't think about having keys. And so this car had run for like 8 hours. And so he looks at the gas gauge. He says, "God damn." And I said, "What's wrong now?" He said, "Look at this thing. It doesn't burn any gas at all. This is a pretty good car." And Jim Jackson is sitting in the back seat, and I just kind of look at Jim, and we're like, well, this is a story that'll stay here. We've been in that situation. So we go to dinner, and it's Tony, a few other people, and they're telling stories. And Mike says, "Well, I got a story for you. It just happened to me tonight." And he tells a story about the car running for like 8 hours. And I just shook my head, just said, "Only Mike Shannon." Here's another one for you. You guys wrestling fans at all?
Yep.
All right. So, like if you listen to the game, we'll have different guests come in and sit in for an inning to promote something or whatever. So the Bella twins were in town, or going to be there. So, they give you a little media kit with their photographs, a little information about them. So Mike says on the air, he said, "Well, the Bella twins are going to be they're going to be here tomorrow." And I'm looking at pictures here, and boy, congratulations to their parents. Just like, so John Rooney, who sits to my right, he starts laughing, and he looks at me, and his glasses had fogged up. He was laughing so much. And so Mike looks at us both and realizes he's made it funny. And now he's laughing. And now we don't know what's going on in the game because Rooney's about to have a conniption, and Shannon's laughing at Rooney. So we've lost all idea of the description and account of this game because we're all laughing about the Bella twins. But I've never worked with a more entertaining, better teammate who is gracious to all. I've seen him do so many things for so many people. He loves kids. He makes you feel like, and I always tell people, Mike Shannon's never met a stranger, the way he treats people. He's been great for me in my career, not just as a broadcaster, but as a friend, a big brother, a father in some cases. He's taught me how to raise kids and how to treat your kids. Some of the things I've seen him do with his, and he's just been great. And he's the biggest ambassador for the St. Louis area that we'll ever have. I mean, he is always proud of the things, and you heard him talk about all the things we have available to us in St. Louis, from the arch to the museums and everything else that we should feel good about St. Louis about. He is a big proponent of what we're all about. And I'm very thankful and blessed to be able to spend as many years as I have with him.
We are incredibly lucky, not just for Mike Shannon, but for everybody that's been associated with the Cardinals and the city of St. Louis, because it seems like we've got the best of when it comes to broadcasters, to players, to just people in general. And yeah. Mike, you're definitely one of those as well. And we're so thankful that you were able to join us. To tell us a little bit more about Claibs Online and what you guys have been doing really the last year.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking, and thank you for the kind words. Claves Online is a website that I put together, and we do everything from have on this day in St. Louis sports and St. Louis Cardinals history. We do podcasts on a regular basis, Lunch with Joe and Claves. We've got a number of different people who contribute to what we do. Alex Ferrario does our hockey. We're going to bring on Keith Costas here soon, and we may have another major announcement of someone who may be joining our staff. Bob Ramsey, who's my oldest friend in the broadcast business, is going to join me. And, we just got a lot of fun stuff that we do, and we just don't do sports. We've interviewed people like Michael McDonald. We've interviewed Danny Meyer. You guys are familiar with Shake Shack, but Danny Meyer is bigger than just Shake Shack alone. And we just like talking. We're in the talk business, and we just like having fun. Yeah, it's been fun. And we just, Joe Roderick, who works with us, told me the other day that we have posted 500 items of content since January of last year. Wow. Think about that. That's more than one a day that we've been able to post for people to view and listen to. And I think we'll even turn it up a notch this year. I mean, we got so many things that we're working on that I'm excited about. And I think if people go on there and check it out, they're going to see something that'll pique their interest. We don't leave any stone unturned, and we just show up looking to have a good time.
And that's the only thing you can do. Just have a good time and make it about the fans and about the people in the community, because that's
absolutely,
they love it.
They do, and we're glad to be part of it. So, and what you guys are doing with your deal, this is where our broadcast industry is headed. Okay. I was doing a thing, and by the way, you guys know Tim McKernan. We have a podcast with him. Mm-hmm. I'm on his website. He's on my website, and we go for like an hour and 40 minutes. All right. And we cover everything. So I would encourage you guys to take a listen to where our industry is going. You guys are doing a really nice job with this, and you're going to start to see some other changes. And what you're doing now is really the trend of the future. Radio, as we know it, will have to change its stripes and its direction in order to be viable here within the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner.
We were talking about this last night, actually, because Tom Ackerman came on our show last year, right around the time that we started doing it this way with the pandemic. And he's like, oh, you guys are ahead of the curve. And for the longest time, we're like, yeah, cool. That's awesome. And then he started doing his garage happy hour. And we're like, that's awesome. And Scott mentioned it last night. He goes, you know what? I think Tom Ackerman stole the idea from us. So we're gonna start blaming Tom Ackerman.
You know what? I would too. And I you know what? I'd go by his garage and honk your horn every night he's on, just to disrupt it. Just pull up in his driveway and just honk the horn.
But he'd be the consummate professional to where he wouldn't even look, though.
Well, we'll see about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. You start bombing his show, we'll see how professional he is.
Oh, we love Tom. He's helped us out.
No, Tom's a good man. He's a great guy. I enjoy working with him and watching his career grow as well.
It's been amazing. Well, Mike, thank you so much. I know you got to get to your stuff. You got some recording you get to do as well.
Hey, listen, this has been a blast, and let's do it again, man. Season, it's 162 of them, so let's do it again someday.
Oh man, I really would love that. When I first brought you on, I think it was what month was that? Was that last February?
Man, I don't know. What? I do so many of these, and it's only a handful that, like you say, yeah, those cats are cool. This person was cool, and I enjoy this. But yeah, I think it was around February. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that was great for the time, and then to bring you on and talk Cardinal baseball, I mean, it comes full circle. I keep saying that a lot, but I grew up listening to you, Shannon.
Wait a minute, you're gonna tell me that when you were a kid, you were listening? I've been listening to you since I was a kid. Yeah, everybody. I'm old. Okay, congratulations.
No, hey, I'm 27. I feel
now
old
he's not
too.
coming back on the show. Way to go, Joe.
I just started 40 years in radio. In February.
Joe.
Yeah,
but thanks for reminding me, Joe, that I'm an old fart.
hey,
but I'm a survivor. Remember that.
Yep. But hey, man, anytime you want to come back on, man,
just give me a holler.
I will.
We'll have some fun. And we don't have to limit it to just baseball. You know me, I can talk about anything.
We've got plenty of stuff to talk about. So Mike Claiborne joining us once again. I think you still owe Scott a hug when we see him at the ballpark too. I think he's been looking forward to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I have to watch my social distancing though, Scott. I'll give you one for. I'll do one for like over here. But we'll hook up. Scott, look me up, man. Seriously,
Okay.
Come by and see me, please.
Awesome. Well,
I will. You'll regret telling me that one of these days, but I will come see you.
Well, you can come by and see me at least once. And then we'll take it from there.
Then he changes his number, his email address, all that stuff.
Like you have to do with that other guy you've been dealing with.
Right.
Who didn't think much of Pujols, So you give him the same treatment, and we'll figure it out. Fellas, it's been a blast, man.
Thank you once again, Mike.
Be safe out there. I hope to see you guys during the season.
We certainly will. We plan on being at Busch at some point, so we will see you there. All right, well, that was Mike Claiborne, part of the Cardinal Network. Just a wonderful guy. Make sure you check him out on Claibs Online. Another wonderful, smooth, just natural interview, and he does a great job with that.
No, he does. And we didn't really get to talk much Cardinal baseball last time, and it was nice to be able to talk actual Cardinal baseball because at that time, we didn't know there'd be a season. At that time, we were like, this pandemic's just getting started. We may not even see a 2020 season. So, now that we get to see 162, maybe have him on again, that's awesome for him to say that.
Yep. All right, boys, I have to run. I got to be somewhere. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of your night.
You too, Scott. Have fun at the game. And we're going to get out of here as well because I think we've done enough damage to your ears today. We want to thank Mike Claiborne for joining us once again. Claibs Online, make sure you check it out. They got a ton of great stuff on their website as well. Just a lot of great conversations. We'll be back with you guys, tonight around 9 o'clock for Crunch Time Nightly. So make sure you check that out as we recap the day in sports. For Scott, for Joe, I am Wags. We will see you later tonight.